Guys, drop our names in the chat. I want to see LinkedIn's and names in the chats, please, guys. Let me get mine up. I always do this. Lastminute.com. Uh, uh, welcome, people. Hey, Afia, welcome. Let's drop our names and LinkedIn's in the chat, guys. Let's all connect and get to know each other. As I'm trying to hit 20K as well by the end of the week. So please, I'm actually plugging my LinkedIn. This is a shameless plug. I'm very much asking you because I want to hit 20K. So I'm gonna put mine in the chat and we can all connect and get to know each other. Thank you, Adebayo. Welcome. Thank you, Antoine. Welcome. Don't be shy, guys. Turn on your cameras as well. Love to see your beautiful faces. Don't be shy, people. And we'll get the session started in about 4 minutes. Thank you, Mee. Welcome. Guys, let's all go on mute as well, please. Let's all go on mute as well. Aiden, what happened? I saw your face and then you disappeared. Don't be shy, guys. Yes, I call people out as well. I can see all of your names, so I'm gonna call you out. I'm sorry, guys. We'll get the session started in 3 minutes. Thank you all for joining. Keep the names and LinkedIn's in the chat. Hey, Shri. Hey, Ian. Hi, Oliver. Representing from Sheffield. Nice. Keep them coming, guys. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. If anyone's feeling brave as well and you are feeling really social, you can also drop a fun fact about yourself. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna drop my fun fact in the chat. I've had 2 knee surgeries. This fun fact might show my unk status, but hey, Abdul, drop your names, LinkedIn's, and fun facts in the chat. We'll get started in about a minute, guys. Hey, Raphael. Hello. Few more seconds and we'll kickstart things, guys. Connor, not sure if you want to share the presentation on the screen so people can see you and Zoe's beautiful faces. Hey, then that's no problem. Wow, you are on the grind. Virtual work experience whilst joining another virtual insight session. This is what we love to see. Connor, Zoe, can you see the quality of talent we're really bringing here? This is dedication. But no problem. There'll be a replay of the session after as well, so you'll be able to access it. So that is all good. But it's 4:05, so we'll kind of kickstart things. First of all, thank you guys all so much for joining. I know this is a bit of a shift from where we usually host the sessions, a bit of a logistical nightmare. I put my hand up. I'm the one that messed up. Literally, Demi gave me this instruction to change everything to Teams, and I just didn't because I forgot and it slipped my mind. But frantically, we've managed to basically get you guys here. So we really thank you so much. We're really pleased to welcome BNY Mellon as one of our latest employer partners for this recruitment season, and they have a lot of roles, across Manchester and London. And today, they've been kind enough to give us some of their time to basically showcase all the roles they have available and also answer your questions as well. If you were here at the last session with HSBC, you guys will know that I don't run these sessions anymore. The only reason why I'm doing this is just to make sure that everything on Teams is going smoothly. But I'll leave you guys in the capable hands of Demi and Antoine to run the sessions, and I'll be in the background bullying everyone to turn on their cameras and also engaging in the chat as well. So I hand it over to Demi and Antoine, and I'll just fade into the abyss.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I'm Demi, and we have Antoine here on the chat as well. And yeah, we're going to be hosting.
Nice to meet you guys.
We're going to be hosting today's session with BNY today. I hope you guys are posting your LinkedIn, you're connecting with each other, getting to know each other. It's so exciting to have you guys here today to learn more about BNY and the opportunities they have available. Antoine, you want to do a little introduction as well?
Yes, so we are with BNY today. We want to give you guys an insight into obviously their opportunities, but also the skills that they might be looking for. We want to answer your questions. We want to make you guys feel comfortable enough to feel inclined to apply. And hopefully, as we go through today, we'll be able to answer your questions and get you, to that goal. Please feel free to drop any questions in the chat, and then one of the members of BNY will be able to respond to that for you. If that question does get ignored, we will then bring it up and it can be answered publicly on the record. So sit back, enjoy, and I'll hand it over to BNY if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to come and listen to what we have to say today. It's much appreciated, and I know how valuable everyone's time is, particularly at university where there is always demands on it. So we're just going to go through very quickly a short presentation today. We're hoping it's not going to take too much time, as nobody needs to hear me and Zoe yapping for the entire hour, when there's loads of value to be gained from doing a Q&A and from having a bit of a call and response as well. So really looking forward to that part of it. We'll do our best to answer the questions in the chat, but I'm sharing the presentation and Zoe's having some technical problems, so we might not be able to get to them in the chat throughout. But if we miss anything, if there's burning questions at the end of the session that we haven't managed to answer, and because we've not been so hot on the chat, please, one of the organisers, you can submit them to us, or we can go back in the chat and carry on answers. If you want to distribute those, that's totally fine as well. So we're just going to proceed. So I've got me today. So I'm Connor. I work in the campus recruitment team here. So I recruit grads and interns for a living. I think it's the best job ever, but lots of people would disagree with me. It's mostly doing this, which is either your absolute best thing in the world, or it's you couldn't think of anything worse, which is my girlfriend. She hates this sort of thing. And we also have Zoe here with us, who's one of our current graduates.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I just want to reiterate on that point because of my technical difficulties. If you have any burning questions, then feel free to fire straight at us. But yeah, as Connor said, my name is Zoe, and I'm a recent operations analyst graduate here at BNY. I'm based in the Manchester office, and I've been working here for just over 2 months now. And I'm within the global institutional accounting team, where I'm sort of sat for my first year rotation.
Fantastic. I'm just popped this slide up to get us started. I'm not going to go through it in any sort of detail. It's just a little bit about who we are, so you can just kind of take in a couple of those little factoids if you'd like to. So just a couple of kind of indicators of I think scale is an important context when you're talking about things like graduate schemes. It's just being part of a large company tends to offer a wide variety of opportunities. And when you've got over 53,000 staff members in a variety of locations across the globe, I think that's nice because it opens up a really big network for you. And one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later when we're talking about the graduate scheme is the benefits of having access to a wide network, and the benefits of part of being a global graduate or intern cohort, and the kind of opportunities that can bring about. So we have, broadly speaking, we have 2 programs on offer here at BNY in terms of early careers. So we've got the summer internship program. Now that's targeted at penultimate year students. So people who are in their second year of a third year course or in their third year of a fourth year course. The idea being that you'd come and join us for the summer between your penultimate year and your final year. You do a 10-week program with us. within one of our functions, and there'll be a slide covering all of our functions a little bit later on. But you'd engage in a strategic project. You'd get involved with some day-to-day work, but you'd also work on a change project with some other interns and get a really good grounding in the business. And then for the most part, a lot of our interns who come and join us for our 10-week program then also convert and come back onto our analyst program. So the summer internship program is sort of a taster. We call it sort of a 10-week interview, and for a lot of people, that's how it is. So you come to get a sense of the company, we'll get a sense of you, and we'll decide at the end whether it's a relationship we'd like to continue. I think this year we achieved really, really high numbers on our conversions for the summer internship, but we're currently sitting at something like 80% of our summer interns in the UK are going to be returning as graduates next year. So that's really fantastic, and we're seeing really good returns on there. And it's just wonderful for us to see as well that people are coming and joining the program and want to stick around and want to come back and want to learn more. So for those people who are going to be returning on the analyst program, which is what Zoe's doing at the moment, it's a 2-year rotational program. All of the programs on offer as part of the analyst program are rotational. You'll either do 2 12-month placements or 4 6-month placements, depending on the area that you apply for. The idea being that you'd get multiple experiences across multiple departments within your line of business, giving you a really good grounding in your area of expertise. The idea being that at the end of your 2 years, you've got a really broad perspective on your area. You've become an expert in your area, and you're able to then transition off of the graduate scheme and into your permanent full-time role. All of the graduate schemes are full-time contracts from day one. So when you're hired onto the graduate scheme, you're hired as a permanent employee. You'll go through your 2-year course, and then you'll do what's called a roll-off and move into the wider business. Just a couple of kind of what to expect as part of the internship program then. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this. I know this is a little bit of an information bombardment in terms of text on the screen, so don't worry about taking it all in. It's just a couple of indicators as to what's on offer and what you might experience. A couple of things I just want to highlight here is manager training is a really big focus as part of our program. So managers are all given a specific and bespoke training course that they have to complete before they become an intern manager, just to make sure that they're really well equipped and well prepared to train and to mentor people who are coming out of university. So that's something that's really great. You also get to be part of a 4-day global induction. So all of our interns are inducted at the same time, be that interns here, be that interns in the US, be that interns in mainland Europe. So you'll get to be part of a really broad cohort of people, and you'll get to meet a ton of those other interns as well when you start across that 4-day induction. And it's designed to give you a really good grounding in the company as a whole. A couple of other things to point out is things like exclusive speaker series. So interns and grads alike have access to exclusive sessions with senior leaders to get access to their knowledge, to their expertise, and to understand how they progress through their career journey and what learnings you might be able to take away from that. And another great opportunity available to both grads and interns is peer mentors. So other people in a similar stage to you within the business, maybe someone who used to be a grad or an intern, maybe somebody who's a couple of years further on in their career, offering advice and offering guidance outside of that manager-worker relationship, as it's not always the best way to learn is from your manager. Sometimes it's best to learn from peers and to have that experience. So similarly, there's one here for the grad program, a lot of crossover here. You'll notice a lot of them are the same. So, structured engagement in terms of structured learning. There's also things like the structured induction. The grad induction is 2 weeks. So you get 2 weeks of really great grounding and training. And then again, there's further manager training for those who are going to be taking on graduate management positions. But what I'd really like is to just pass over to Zoe for a second, just so she can talk a little bit about her experiences of being on the grad program and what she's experienced so far.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Connor. So as you all know, I sort of joined just over 2 months ago, and so far I'm loving every sort of day that comes about. Every day is different for my role, and there has been a steep learning curve, but I've enjoyed every different sort of element of it. And I would say it's been transformational already for both personal sort of and professional growth. I've already been involved in multiple initiatives and lots of opportunities which you can really just get involved in and get stuck in, and they really advocate for that, specifically my manager, which has been great. And you can really make an impact at BNY just beyond your team, and an opportunity to really meet a whole lot of other senior people across the business. And yeah, so far it's been phenomenal. And as I mentioned, I've joined the Global Institutional Accounting team, specifically looking at institutional accounts, which is totally different to my background, which was physical geography. So everything's been totally new, but the learning opportunities, as Connor mentioned, are unmatched, and there are so many different ways that you can get involved. But off the back of that, I sort of think it's worth touching on specific elements maybe that I've found most interesting being here for months. And as I said, it's the sort of learning opportunities. It's access to, say, BNY's learning platform, which is Learn at BNY, where you have access to pretty much any course, any topic that you want to further your knowledge on, or that you have no idea what's going on in that area. Say if you're unsure in your day to day, and yeah, there are a myriad of courses out there on that, which I've tried to tap into and sort of bridge the gap between my lack of knowledge for the industry, I guess, and equally the empowering support that I've got from the team, where they've sort of actively encouraged you to ask questions, ask why about everything, and just put your hand up, I guess, if you don't understand something. And equally, there's been regular sort of senior executive talks, panel events, fireside chats with Robin, the CEO. And again, just unmatched sort of exposure to the top executives within the firm and industry. Lastly, some specific things that I personally have really enjoyed. I would say the sort of mentorship aspect, the fact that you can really connect and tap into the mentorship opportunities out there, both your line manager and peer mentor that you get assigned, and you're sort of equipped with sort of information, skills and knowledge from them in order to sort of aid and support your growth. But I would like to sort of finish on the fact that the 2-week induction for me at the very start of the programme was quite formative and foundational in terms of setting me up for the network that I now have, the support from all the other analysts, and really sort of providing a great position to start on, knowing all my colleagues, I guess. And yeah, finally, the sort of rotational aspect, I'd say, will enable me to tap into different business verticals, and again, broaden my sort of skill set, and hopefully diversify my experience, which they're a huge advocate for here at BNY. And I guess the flexibility that BNY offers is definitely unmatched to other places I know. So yeah, so far had a phenomenal experience on the analyst program. Thanks, Connor.
Now that's a glowing review. Thank you so much, Zoe, for that. A couple of points to pick out from what Zoe said there, just from a recruiter's perspective, which I think is really valuable to know. One, an interesting point around degree choice and how that's not a limiting factor for us. That's really important to know. I was having a bit of a peruse through the chat at the very beginning and saw a couple of interesting degrees in there. I want to be really clear that if you haven't got a degree that's got a background in finance or economics, that is in no way a prohibitive factor from applying to one of our programs.
Totally.
We have a really, really wide variety of backgrounds here in our internship and in our graduate program. We've got people from STEM degrees, people from social science degrees. We've got people who've done engineering. We've got people who've done, literature or English. We've got people who've done all manner of degrees. I think we have like a nautical engineer or something on one of our ops teams. It is a broad cohort, and that's a benefit to us rather than a negative. So please don't let any sort of degree background or educational background shy you away from applying. Certainly not. And then also on the mentorship piece as well, that's something I've come to be very passionate about recently, and it's not necessarily always structured in the way you might expect. I personally have had a really nice honor to be a mentor, which I've never had the opportunity to do before, but I'm currently mentoring one of our apprentices, which is one of our other lines of early talent that we're not really touching here today. But one of our apprentices was really interested in learning about public speaking and was really interested in learning about presentation skills. So they've been paired up with me, and now I've got the opportunity to be a mentor for them. So the mentorship pathways and the mentorship experiences you have might not necessarily always appear in the way you might expect, but they're really valuable, and I'm getting a lot of really good experience out of that as well as a mentor. So they're really good two-way relationships. Just quickly on here, so sorry, go for it.
Sorry, I just want to reiterate Connor's point there that the range of degrees amongst my cohort is pretty unmatched. And, I did physical geography, which is totally unrelated, but it's about what you can bring to the firm and how you can sort of be curious and inquisitive in your ways of thinking and apply that to your role specifically. Thanks, Connor.
Absolutely. And we're going to go through a little bit of that later on. Zoe's covered most of this slide really fantastically in terms of, exposure from rotational programs, which is great. Large cohorts, so having a really large network to learn from and being able to establish a large network early in your career is really valuable, particularly an intercontinental network. A lot of our grads and a lot of our staff in general work with people in other time zones, in other countries, which can be a really valuable learning experience. I, for one, talk to the US almost more than I do to my own team sometimes. So that's always a nice thing. Just one other one on here as well, because I think many of them are self-explanatory, but the programs team might be one that needs a slightly bit more explanation. So we have a team dedicated here whose sole job is to make sure that the programs that are on offer, so the internship and the grad program, are running smoothly, they're running efficiently, and they're providing really good value to the people who go through them. So we're really lucky to have that team here and to have a really dedicated and really talented team of people whose entire responsibility and entire role here is formed around making sure that our grads and our interns have a really valuable experience and get a lot out of their time here. So we're very fortunate in that regard, and I always want to shout them out because they do really fantastic work.
Definitely. Yeah, just on that note, the events and sort of things I've organised to date have led to us creating such a great network amongst our cohort.
Not going to labour too much on this one. Again, this is just about scale and breadth. So these are all of the areas that currently offer internships or graduate programs. As you can see, it's quite a number. So what we largely say is, with our flexibility on degree choice and the breadth of programs that we have, if you're interested, for the large part, we have a program that will suit most people. If you have a desire for a career in tap dance, or the arts, were probably not the place for you. But if you're interested in a career in business in some form or another, there likely is an internship or a graduate program here that will suit you and your skill set. So it's really about you finding a passion or finding something that interests you and going down that route, because we do offer a really great range of different programs and different opportunities within the internship and within the graduate program. Just on timelines for recruitment then, just so everybody's aware, in case if you just would like to make an application after this, we're currently in the heart of our main recruitment period here. So we're in the fall recruitment cycle, September through to December. All of our adverts are currently live and open. So all of the internship positions and all of the graduate positions that will be advertised are currently advertised. There is nothing more to come. They will stay open for another couple of weeks. The internship will probably stay open a little bit longer than the grad scheme applications. The grad scheme applications are due to close within the next 2 or 3 weeks. The internship ones will probably run to mid-November. But just to let you know that they are currently available, but will only be available up until probably about mid-November. From November through to May, we do our assessment process. So that's a really simple process, and I'll cover that in a second on a separate slide. But really, we aim to have the entirety of our recruitment and selection process done by February, May at the latest. So everyone's got their offers and they know where they're going to be later that year. From May then to August, it's the onboarding period. So we run a really dedicated, what we call pre-boarding exercise. So before interns or grads join the business, they're connected with one another before their start date through a series of virtual calls, through newsletters, through chats with people in the business. And really, it's to help you build up a network before you join the business. So you've got some people that you already know when you start your graduate program. You've got some familiar faces, and we've seen some really great successes through this as well. I know a couple of graduates who've found housemates, for example. They've come together because they're relocating to Manchester in particular. We've had a couple, and in London we've had a couple where people have met other grads who are also relocating, and they found house shares together and they found places to live together, and it's given them someone they can live with or someone they can spend time with in a new city or an unfamiliar city. So stories like that from our pre-boarding exercises are really positive and things to be really proud of, I think. So I'm glad that we have that pre-boarding exercise and we have that pre-start date engagement just to get you built up and ready to start on your first day. And then from kind of June, the interns will start. From August, the graduates will start. Like we said earlier, the interns will have a 4-day induction. The graduates will have a 2-week induction. The interns will finish their 10-week placement around the August time when the graduates start. The graduates will then start in August, and in August we'll also start the process of converting our interns into graduates for the following year, and the whole process starts all over again. So anything past May is a little bit sort of, beyond the scope of anything you need to worry about right now. The main thing is the first 2 points. Applications are open and the recruitment selection process will be taking place between now and February time next year. Just a quick overview of the hiring process then. This is something that I'm always quite happy to talk about because I think we have a really slick and really simple application process here, which I think in the modern day is a more and more rare occurrence. We frequently receive feedback from students saying that they are having to do so many higher view, interviews, or they're having to do so many games or tests before they can even get to the point where they put their CV in. For us, our process is much simpler than that. So it's an application with a CV and a cover letter. That CV and cover letter will then be reviewed by a member of the recruitment team. So me or my colleague Sarah will take a look at your CV or your cover letter. If we think you're suitable, we'll do a telephone interview with you. So that'll be a HR interview with us. That will focus on things like cultural fit. It'll focus on things like behaviors and motivations. We'll then put forward the people we think are the best candidates to the business. The hiring managers will then shortlist for a functional interview, and you'll have an interview with the business, depending on what you apply for, depending on if you apply for an internship or a grad scheme and what scheme that might be. You'll have between 1 and 3 interviews that will focus on behaviors, skills, and competencies, and from there we'll decide on the final successful applicant or applicants, depending on the demand, and we'll look to make you an offer. So a very clean process, a very simple process.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I just want to touch on sort of my experience of the hiring process, and I honestly cannot vouch enough for how seamless and straightforward the BNY hiring process was compared to some of the other places that I applied to and ended up doing final assessments and whatnot. The entire process was incredibly easy to navigate. Communication was clear. BNY recruitment team provided a very detailed timeline, step by step outlining sort of what to expect, how to prepare for the next stage, and it sort of enabled me to stay confident and sort of on top of being prepared, I guess, for each stage that came about. And each stage had its sort of clear purpose. As I said, the communication was on point, and I understood exactly what was asked of me, and then as a result was able to best present myself in the best light, I guess. There were minimal complications, and not sure if you guys were familiar at this point in time, but you'll come to notice that some other places, as Connor mentioned, make it incredibly complex for absolutely no reason. And you get to say, if you get to the 4th round of some places, you still haven't interacted with a human, and then could get cut off, whereas BNY is very human-centric led and orientated. And sort of the structure around it was phenomenal. There was sort of no with communication. You found out the next day. So that was my experience today, as you can tell, very positive. And what I specifically found great about the process would be the fact that they really hone in and tell you sort of what to focus on. So focusing on the sort of individual strengths and how I can sort of best apply that to the role and to BNY, sort of aligning it with the strategic pillars and principles that BNY has to sort of lead by.
I think that's a fantastic lead into this next section, which is what we're looking for. And as Zoe said, this isn't a secret. This isn't something that we hide. A lot of these points that are on here are regularly discussed as part of our HR interviews because we don't want to hide what good looks like, and we're not ashamed to acknowledge that we know what we're looking for, and we're going to help you express your skills in the best way you possibly can. So really important for us is openness and willingness to learn. When you work in an industry like ours, when you work in a bank, it can be quite dangerous to have an individual who thinks they already know everything, or who thinks that they already know better than their manager, or who has that level of overconfidence. We have to be a risk-averse business. We have to be a very risk-conscious business given what we do. So being open, willing to learn, and acknowledging where your own competence ends and where you might need some support and growth, that's great. That's ideal for us. We want people who know their own limits, but who are willing to grow and learn as part of the process. Again, eager to understand the industry is really important to us. This is a complicated business, as I'm sure Zoe will say. I'm sure if you speak to most of our grads who've started their program, there is a lot to learn, and it is a complicated industry. But if you're willing to put the time and the effort into understanding it, you will go far, and it is something that goes a long way towards being a really positive candidate. Again, think about the long term with us. If you're applying for the internship, for example, we aim to convert a lot of our interns into grads. So don't just think about the application process as an application application process for a 10-week program. Potentially you are applying for the next 2 years, 3 years and beyond when you consider the summer internship program. So factor that into your application and think about where you'd like to be in the long term. That's always positive for us as well. Be really clear about your skills and experiences. As we've mentioned already, you don't have to have direct one-to-one academic links. You don't have to have done finance or economics or anything like that in order to work here, but you do have to tell us about your transferable skills. You have to tell us how you've acquired them and why they're important to the role you're applying for. And again, just engage in the recruitment process. Be specific, be eager, be keen, and demonstrate a real willingness and want to be part of the program. And express to us what you want to get out of the program as well. What is it you're hoping to learn? How is it you're hoping to grow? And why this role specifically? Always be really specific, always write with intention. And that kind of comes on to our next point as well. But I'll just see if Zoe wants to add anything onto there quickly before I move on.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Connor, for that. Just want to sort of reiterate all of his points. The best applicant is the one that's most transparent, and they can see straight through in that interview. So sort of, I guess, be willing to show that you can contribute through specific examples of your previous experience. Be sort of curious in your outlook and inquisitive, and definitely, as I mentioned, physical geography is totally unrelated. So the ability to use those transferable skills in the right way and really show that through specific examples. And so on that note, I'd sort of say that my tips would centre around showing your enthusiasm for being able to continuously learn and develop, and sort of highlight those times that you've specifically been willing to learn and take on a new skill or a challenge, and then finish that point, sort of do your research and mention those specific aspects as to why the specific elements of the program really excite you and why, I guess. And then on the note of sort of having a genuine interest in the industry and how to show that and show that you're motivated to grow, I'd recommend, again, using specific examples, say through coursework or sporting success or projects where you've proactively sort of sought out opportunities, and you can sort of really apply that and say that that's how you can sort of grow within the industry. And lastly, maybe sort of on the ability to extrapolate learnings from a non-academic environment, also super important. And I would sort of say that highlight again any relevant achievements and discuss how you've really applied that academic knowledge, I guess, to non-academic environments, such as through internships or projects or anything really, and how you've really utilised, say, critical thinking skills and problem solving skills to sort of real world situations. But again, I think what is super important is just specific examples. It doesn't really matter what the example is, it's just showing how you can apply that and how you can align that within the specific role you're going for. Again, I think just make it as easy as possible for the recruiter to love you and sell yourself from there.
Definitely. And this is the last slide now. I appreciate we've been talking for a little while and we want to leave plenty of time for questions. So we'll move on to questions in just a second. But very much aligned with what Zoe's just saying, some tips on applications and interviews here for us. And I want to stress as well, this is tips for us specifically. These might not apply to all companies or all applications you make, but for us, these are what's important. I'm not going to read them all word for word, but one thing I will say is we do genuinely read applications. So CVs and cover letters are reviewed by people, and interviews, phone interviews, HR interviews are conducted by people as well. So when you're writing for us, please write for a person, please write them specifically and intentionally, and please write with passion, and please write with genuine curiosity or genuine interest or genuine excitement, because it's really easy for us as recruiters to pick up on those genuine interests and to let us know that that's how you really feel or that's how you really think, and that can be really valuable as part of an application. So be clear in what you're saying, use specific examples exactly like Zoe said, write with intention and write with clarity, and that will really help in terms of your written application. And again, for interviews, please prepare. Please find a structure that works for you. STAR is a tried and tested thing, and you've probably heard lots about it from a million people by now. The reason it's always banged on about is because it works. You don't have to use that method, but being able to keep on track with your interview questions and being really set and clear with the direction you're taking them in and the story you're telling is really important. And for us in particular as well, make sure you've done your research on the company, make sure you understand our values and our behaviors and find ways in which you might align with those. We're not saying you have to perfectly fit every single one, and you don't have to be, Mr. or Mrs. BNY. But if you can find ways in which you genuinely relate to some of those behaviors or values, find ways in which you can connect with them, that can be really valuable as well.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I just want to reiterate the point of the sort of star structure. I got recommended to use that for the next interview, and it was incredibly beneficial because I'm usually speaking for hours on end and with a lack of structure. So definitely utilize that. But again, the sort of preparedness is key. Do your research, understand the firm, and I guess tailor your story specifically to the role with anecdotes, and really showcase a sort of growth mindset and demonstrate that willingness to learn, and how you sort of overcome previous challenges and periods of adversity. Say, again, any example is great. The weirder, the better, as long as it's specific and that you've shown that you've actively resolved an issue through taking action. I think that will get you far. And then equally off the back of it, always sort of end your interview with, I guess, like a thoughtful question to show that you've generally done your research and you're generally interested in learning more about the specific role and position. And maybe on that note, avoid generic questions if you're looking to stand out.
Thank you so much. That was such an amazing presentation, guys. Like, if you guys listen to what they were saying, paying attention, they have over 14 different divisions available. So there's so many roles available for you guys. So I'll be kind of flowing in with the questions now. So question number one, I would say, what are the current skills you would say, Zoe, that are currently in demand that you think people should actually be on the lookout to learn?
Definitely. I'd sort of start with having a curiosity and willingness to learn, as we've touched on multiple times. My role is specifically demanding in terms of I need to be a fast learner, essentially. So I guess having that open-mindedness and focus around that is seriously important. And off the back of that, I guess being enthusiastic with your outlook too. Being positive, because each day, you're going to go through highs and lows, peaks and troughs with the content if you don't understand it, for example, but you've got to really stick at it, and be inquisitive in your outlook in that sense, and always ask why when you don't understand. I think the culture here is great because they've really challenged you to think, but equally they're really accepting of you not being able to grasp everything because it's quite fast paced, so you've got to sort of move with the flow. But having the ability to ask questions at the right time and speak out and not be afraid to, and really challenge that sort of status quo, I think is really important. And they've really encouraged me to do that. And as a result, you learn a lot quicker. So those would be my top tips.
Good. I'm gonna stay on you for a while because I see Connor is in the chat answering some questions. So in terms of like, you see the curiosity and the kind of technical skills, what sort of like other soft skills do you think has kind of made you a top candidate in terms of like when you were applying for the roles?
Definitely good question. I'd say probably critical thinking is also key, to sort of try and connect the dots across the business and connect dots in terms of what you're learning on the everyday. I'd also say your sort of approach and outlook again is seriously important because it's so fast paced. You've got to stick at it. So being positive in that sense is also seriously helpful.
Okay. What would you say a day in the life looks like for you as a graduate at BNY?
Yeah, so no day is the same. I mean, I am still doing quite a lot of training. As I said, there's a lot to learn for my specific role. But at the moment, it entails sort of starting at 9 typically, logging on, checking my emails, catching up on what I've missed. And then I'd usually tune into one of two of my 2-hour training calls each day. So that starts at sort of 9:45 to 11:30ish. And then I'll practice validating some exceptions, using different softwares and systems that I'm learning to date. And then usually I'll sort of have a coffee chat, network with a new individual maybe twice a week, which sort of spreads out my workload, I guess. And then I'll have lunch with lots of my cohort, lots of the other analysts, around sort of 1 to 2. And then from 2, I have my second training call of the day. And then off the back of that, I'll practice whatever I've learned in the training. But I just want to reiterate that when my training programs ended, which will be sort of in a few weeks or so, each day is different. There are so many opportunities to get involved in. So some days You may be getting involved in an event for a whole day or volunteering. There are 3 days where you can volunteer across the whole year. Other days, you could be glued to your desk and sort of, yeah.
It kind of varies that way in that sense. Okay, I think this next question's in the chat. You can take it up, or Connor can take it up. It's like, when it comes to the application process, what can we work on in advance to be better prepared? This is for more serious candidates.
Yeah, I'll take that one if that's okay. So, having an understanding of the industry is a really big one, right? So, one thing particularly for our grad roles, what we find is when people are what we would consider naive about the industry or about the role that they're applying for, and they base their application off of maybe stereotypes or maybe ad hoc stories or things they've heard online. When they join, we find some of them get quite disappointed because it's not quite what they had in their head. And then we tend to see a bit of a mismatch between what we were hoping for and what they were hoping for. That's where we tend to see our dropouts, particularly from the graduate scheme more than the internship. So I would say be really open, be really clear, do your research about the industry, be really clear about what you're applying for and what you want out of the graduate scheme as well. I hear plenty of people, at careers fairs and things like that saying, I'm going to apply to your investments division because I want to be like Wolf of Wall Street. That's a really bad reason to apply, to a role like that. And it doesn't show an intimate knowledge of what the culture is like within a bank genuinely, because it's like I mentioned earlier, it's very risk averse, it's very risk sensitive, and skills like knowing your own limitations, being able to hold your hands up and say, I made a mistake because I didn't know this thing and I need to upskill myself for the future, that's all really valuable. So be really clear about why you want to apply, what you're applying to. So do your research, come to insight days like this. If you're curious about what life is like inside of companies like ours, a lot of university societies have links with companies as well. I know lots of unis have things like economics or finance societies or banking societies, that sort of thing. And generally they run really fantastic insight days as well with other companies. So they're always really valuable resources, and communicate with your university career service as well, as they usually have some insights for you too.
Okay. Another question.
I just want to,
Go on.
And I just wanted to sort of reiterate Connor's points. Just do your research and know what you want. It's what you make of it, and sort of read as much as you can and see if it's for you, I guess.
Thank you for that. There's another one in the chat. For engineering roles, I assume there will be a technical assessment. Will it be the LeetCode style coding questions, take-home problems, or live coding exercises? And what software skills and programming languages are preferable?
So we do have a technical assessment for engineering roles. It's the only one of our roles that comes with a test before any kind of interview element takes place. So we use a company called HackerRank in order to run our technical assessments. It's a coding assessment that you'll have to do. HackerRank do have some practice tests that you can do on their websites. They have things you can access for training and experiences beforehand. You'll be asked to do a HackerRank assessment before you go to interview. So it'll be usually after a telephone screen with the HR team. You'll be sent a HackerRank test. You'll have to meet a certain threshold then before you're moved on to interview. It's a very difficult assessment, but the bar is set at a reasonable level. You don't have to achieve 100% or anything like that. You can use any coding language of your choice. There is no limitations there. We generally look for Python as a skill for some of our roles. I know that is a language that we have a preference on, but it's not exclusive to that. You can use any language you want for HackerRank. And you will also be asked to do a live code as part of the interview as well, just to make sure that obviously it was you who took the assessment. We need to make sure that you are the actual, you're the actual person who possesses those skills. But it will be a very similar coding assessment you'll do live as part of the interview.
Great. Thank you. Staying on you, Connor, because I know you did mention that you review the CVs. What are some of the best practices for CVs and cover letters that you would say give to our audience as things to take up on?
Definitely. This is a topic I could talk on for hours, so I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. They serve very different purposes. That's something to get clear right away. So CVs are very much for expressing your core skills. A CV should tell me that you meet the essential criteria for the role, so you have all of the relevant skills to be successful within the role. And they should also tell me about your achievements and your successes, things like that. But it should all be very neatly laid out. It should be easily digestible. Bullet points are great. Short paragraphs are great. It shouldn't be, nothing should be more than a couple of sentences. For us in particular, avoid things like putting a huge personal statement at the top of your CV, because all of that information should be in your cover letter. The cover letter is there so that you can express more personal thoughts about the role, so that you can express more opinions about yourself, about how your skills might align, or about how you might align to the business as a whole. So make sure that each of your documents is serving its intended purpose, and they are very different purposes. So make sure your CV is really neat, really easy to digest as a recruiter. One of the things with being a human-led process here is that I review hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of CVs. So if it's easy to digest and take in, I can spend more time thinking about you and your skills and less time trying to pick out the relevant information from a bit of a jumbled page. Similarly, for the cover letter, I know it's very common practice these days to write a cover letter as if an AI is reading it, because I know that that's true for some companies. They are read by people here, so please write them as if they're going to be written by someone, as I mentioned in the presentation. And the best advice I can give with CVs is write with intention. So please write with something to say. Try and avoid them being too generic. Try and have a point that you're trying to get across to us, and write around that point. So I always say with cover letters, for us, when you're done writing, please be done writing. If you've written half a page of fantastic, well thought out, really, personal, intentional wording, please stop there. Don't then write another half page of something you don't believe in, or something that you've just put in for the sake of it, because I'd much rather see half a page of excellence than half a page of excellence and half a page of nothing, because that half a page of nothing takes away from the excellence that you've put in before that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll just sort of finish, seeing as I've so recently submitted those documents at the start of this year. I'd say make it as easy as possible for the recruiter, as Connor said. So you make it as short as possible, as concise and as clear as possible, so that you are making it as easy as possible for them to find out the things and why you are the best applicant. And again, tailor your story on the cover letter specifically for the role and why you, and avoid making it as generic as possible, as Connor says. Really important, because then you stand out, obviously.
Yeah, good. I'm gonna go back to Connor. So do applicants have to be in university to apply to the internships?
They do. We have apprentice roles that are available as well for people who have not gone down the university route. I'm not an apprentice recruiter, unfortunately, so I can't talk around that too much, as it's very much its own thing, and we have our own apprentice recruiters. Apprentice recruiters and grad recruiters tend to be different teams because they require very different knowledge and their different specialties. For the internships and the graduate roles, you do have to be enrolled at university. I've seen a couple of questions in the chat as well around graduation dates. The oldest graduation date we can accept for any of our schemes is the summer of this year. So if you graduated in sort of June, July, August of this year, you could apply for the graduate scheme in 2025, but that is the absolute oldest we consider. And the majority of our applicants come from people who are in their final year of university for the graduate scheme, or who are in their penultimate year for the summer internship. There is only 2 of us in the campus team here, so we have to have quite firm cutoffs, otherwise we end up with too many applications to consider, and then we can't give the process that we want because we're not able to respond to people and that sort of thing. So we have to be a little bit harsh on the rules, unfortunately.
Okay. And I did at least notice you mentioned that a lot of the people from the internship was filtered down into the graduate schemes. But are there opportunities for either master students or PhD students to apply for the graduate schemes as well?
Yeah, 100%. We've taken master's students onto the graduate scheme more so than PhDs. PhDs we've had as more of an ad hoc, but it is something we've done before. It's just something we've done by exception because we don't get tons of PhD applications more than anything. And I want to be clear as well, just because we take a lot of conversions from the internship doesn't mean that there are no graduate roles available for the wider market. Zoe is someone who came into the graduate scheme without having done the summer internships. She came directly into the graduate scheme. So there are always graduate schemes available outside of the internship. It's just that the summer internship is our first point of contact, basically, because those people are already engaged and they're already interested. So we see that they'd like to come back, and then we tend to do a second set of hiring for other roles outside of the summer internship program for the graduate program.
Okay, that's really, really good. A lot of our audiences are not just students based in London, they're based all around the UK. And I know you're from the Manchester office and Zoe's from the London office. Are there any other locations in the UK that BNY is and they're hiring as well?
So London and Manchester are the main areas. We also have some offices in Ireland. So if we've got any Irish people here, we have offices in Dublin and in Wexford. And there's also offices in Wrocław in Poland. But for the UK, London and Manchester are the two main sites. We do have quite a lot of people relocate for the graduate scheme in particular. We have people come and move in. That's part of what we were saying about the pre-boarding and getting people to know one another. And we do also offer a sign-on bonus for all our graduates as well to help offset some of that cost of relocation, as we know it can be a costly endeavour.
Okay, really good. What advice would you give to graduates or anyone looking to apply for internships or any of the graduate schemes right now and are currently in this current job crisis in the market right now? What kind of advice would you give? Connor, you can go, and Zoe, you can go as well.
It's tough to stand out. I'll be honest with you. It is a really popular market right now, and I understand a lot of the questions around kind of when was the last graduation date you can accept and things like that, because graduate schemes, I know firsthand, graduate schemes are hard to get on. I applied for something like 60 internships when I was applying, and that was 4 or 5, 6 years ago, however long that was. But I remember thinking back to my own personal experiences. I didn't do things like this, so I didn't come to events like this. I didn't upskill myself or enhance my own knowledge or understanding in the way that you were all doing by being here today. So you have already taken significantly more steps than I ever did during my university career to prepare myself for the workplace. So be really proactive about upskilling yourself. It is never too early to start working on your CV. Some good advice I've given recently at careers fairs is take a look at your CV as it stands right now, and take a look at the graduate job or the internship that you would really like to be a part of or you'd really like to get, and find the gap. You've got to find the missing pieces between those two things. So find the skills that you're missing or the experiences you're missing or the knowledge you're missing, and then work to rectify those gaps. And I'm a really strong believer in attending things like societies or clubs or being part of organizations like this, because they offer really unique opportunities. And a lot of the really positive applications we've had are from people who we've met through clubs or societies, or who've met other companies through clubs or societies or organizations like this, or who've taken really proactive steps to upskill themselves or develop a really good understanding of the industry they'd like to be in, or who've just exhibited a real enthusiasm. By being here today, it tells me as a recruiter that you're all really enthusiastic, you're all interested, you're all engaged. That's brilliant. That's a great position to start from.
Yeah, thanks, Con. I definitely want to emphasize that you've already shown you're proactive, continue doing that, and the job market is incredibly tough, but if you make your application as specific as possible and sort of demonstrate all the relevant activities, societies, events, things that you've attended, you're really building a positive sort of case for yourself. But again, I think I'd link back to how important it is to be prepared. I think that can never be underestimated. I think reading the website BNY in depth, for example, knowing the industry, knowing the specific things related to the role that you're applying to, and again, sort of have a bank of, say, anecdotes or stories where you've exhibited specific skills, and sort of marry that up with I guess the sort of responsibilities and the job description that you're looking at. And as Connor says, look for the gap and where you could really sort of improving those skills, if that's through attending more societies or learning of other people, networking, reaching out to other people. Really put yourself out there and learn as much as possible, but definitely being prepared, researching, reading, building your knowledge. If you don't understand something, question it, be inquisitive, and go beyond the surface in terms of understanding specifics for the role and how you can be the applicant to fulfill that. I do really appreciate it's really tough in the job market out there, but I think being prepared, doing your research and tailoring your story to the role, and again, having that growth mindset places you in a really strong position, I'd say.
Good.
Have
Thank you so much.
a couple more points just to add on to the end of that I've just thought of, if that's okay. Just a couple of really quick things. Get the basics right is also really important. The number of CVs I read that say the word Barclays in them somewhere is unbelievable. So make sure if you're writing a CV, it is tailored to what you're applying for. I know that can be hard when you're writing lots and lots of different applications, but prioritize the ones you're really interested in, the ones you feel very passionately about. Please do tailor them and be specific and write them for that company, because it does make a difference and we can tell the difference. And at a minimum, please take out the name of the other company and don't call your document, CV for HSBC or something like that, because that happens quite a lot, more than you think it would. Also, walk the line between confidence as well, and being humble. It is really hard to sit down and say, what am I amazing at? That's a really difficult conversation to have with yourself, and it comes more naturally to some people than it does to others. But do sit down with yourself and think about what makes you fantastic, and think about what makes you unique, and what makes you a good applicant. What skills do you have? Where have you found them? How have you honed them? Because the truth is, most people are really good and they have fantastic skills and they have really good abilities. The difference can come down to whether you're able to present those or not. So be really candid with yourself and think really carefully about where your skills come from, what skills you have to offer, and think about what makes you really great, because it can be tough to sit down and go, I've got to write a whole page about why I'm amazing. Because especially as British people, we're not always built that way. Because if I did this talk in America, this would not land in the same way, and they'd all be like, I've got 9 pages of things that make me amazing. But I think culturally we're a little bit different, and I think it can be hard, but please do that. And just as a final point as well, this is the hardest job you'll ever get. Your first job is the most difficult job you will ever get. It only gets easier from here. So please put the effort in. And I know from firsthand experience, I know that it's really, really tough. I think I did 65 applications for my internship when I eventually got mine. But it only gets easier from here, because once you've got experience under your belt, and once you've had some of those workplace experiences, your CV just starts to write itself, and your applications start to be a lot easier, and you start getting a lot more callbacks because you can lean on your real world experience. So perseverance is really key here, because this is by far the toughest job you'll ever apply for.
Good. Thank you for that. We're hitting the last 5 minutes of this session, so I'm just gonna hurry up and ask 2 last
Absolutely.
questions. The first one, I know you mentioned it being hard in the job market right now. As a recruiter yourself, what are your views on posting on LinkedIn as a way to get a job? Number 1. And 2, does the BNY offer open days, inside days, or kind of shadowing opportunities that people can actually come in to actually learn more about the company and the industry as a whole as well?
So personally, for us, LinkedIn isn't a huge deal. So because we're only a small team, we're more interested in what you put forward as part of your application. So we're not in the habit of going and checking out applicants' LinkedIn and things like that. I know lots of people at careers fairs like to connect with me on LinkedIn and things like that, and that's great. And it's cool if you want to see things that I'm posting, if you want to know when the jobs are going live, or if you want to know updates about the company. But we don't tend to look at individuals' LinkedIn, but I think that's more of just an us thing. I wouldn't say that's an industry as a whole thing. I know lots of companies do. It's more that's just not how we operate. But if you meet us at an event and you want to connect with us and you want to stay up to date with us, then always more than happily connect on LinkedIn. And it's always good to have a presence, right? You don't have to be, number 1 LinkedIn influencer in the land, but having a decent profile set up, having your picture up there, having a couple of posts, that always, really helps. And it just lets us know that you take yourself seriously. So if we do come across you on LinkedIn, if you do connect with us at a fair or after an event like this, it just lets us know that you take yourself seriously, you hold yourself in a serious way, and you take your applications and your presence in the workplace seriously as well. What was the second part of the question again? I've forgotten.
Open days, inside days, and
that's it. We don't offer them in kind of open source. You can't just kind of apply for them. Again, it comes down to the fact that we're quite a small team, and all of those things are run by just me and 2 other people. So we have some connections with some universities that come and do open days with us. We have some connections with other charities or other networks or organizations that we host open days with. But truth be told, we tend to do maybe 10 a year at the very, very most, simply due to time constraints. So if you can access them, fantastic. And please do jump on them if you are able to access them, because they are really good. But we are a small team here, unfortunately, and a lot of our time and resource goes into running that really human-centered approach to applications. So we have to kind of walk that line a little bit carefully, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll just finish. I'd say LinkedIn obviously adds a huge amount of credibility to your sort of case, and sometimes has the option to sort of obviously include your link and whatnot. But I also think use it to your advantage. Research, say if there are specific people in the team that you're applying to or whatnot, and you wanted advice, there's no harm in reaching out to those people. More often than not, everyone's super helpful, and I've always had positive experiences doing that. But again, I think the most focus should obviously be down to the application, and that is obviously read by humans. So use that to your advantage.
Good. Any final tips, final words you want to give to our attendees today in terms of application season and kind of moving forward from today?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just again, thank you so much for being here and for taking your time. Time's a really valuable commodity, particularly when you're at university and it is application season. I know there's a million things you probably all have to do today, so thank you for coming and listening. But I think you've all made a really, productive decision by coming to events like this and by enhancing your own understanding of the industry and thinking really critically and carefully about where you'd like to go and where you'd like to be in the future. There is a really clear divide that we see every year with applications of people who really clearly know where they want to be and where they want to go and have a really solid vision for themselves for the future, and people who realize it's application season and just go, it's application season, and put a load of applications in and don't really have that same kind of clear vision. So please be self-critical. Please think carefully about where you'd like to be. Like I said, find those gaps, look at your CV in a critical way, look at your CV as if you were me, someone who's never met you before, someone who knows nothing about you, and think about whether it expresses what you want it to express. Does it tell me the story that you're trying to get across? Does it tell me the story of what makes you a really unique applicant? And for us in particular, again, this isn't advice for everyone, but for us, please write with passion. Please write earnestly and honestly, because we actually read them, and because it comes to me and Sarah and we spend a lot of time with our applications, we can tell when people write with honesty, and people write with soul almost. I guess it's really obvious when somebody's churned something out of ChatGPT and just gone, there you go, that's the business, or whether somebody's actually really taken time to put some of their own individual thoughts and feelings into their application and has applied from that perspective. So please apply to us from that position, and apply to us with honesty and with integrity, and then that will really come across in your application to us.
Yeah, I totally agree with Connor's point. And as he previously said, I would sort of reiterate smashing out the basics, really honing in why BNY, and not just sort of duplicating that application that you've used elsewhere. Make it very specific. And I guess is quite clear when you actively want to be somewhere. As Connor says, write with passion, and sort of sell yourself. And maybe if it helps, write a bank of all your strengths and marry those with the experiences where you've demonstrated that. And from there, I think it's quite a good structure in terms of going about the applications. But I think just get the basics right is key. And I appreciate that, in the positions that you're in, you have to fire through so many applications. But if I've learned one thing, it's actually, if you spend more time on fewer applications, you get a lot further than churning out the exact same, regardless of, say, the team or the job that you're applying for. So just get the basics right and the rest will fall into place.
Thank you so much to the BNY team for making time to come and speak to us today. Thanks so much to everyone in the community for showing up today to learn more about BNY. It's been a wonderful session today. The link to all the opportunities live right now at BNY is in the chat. So if you're ready to apply, if you're ready to take that next step, you can do that today. Applications are closing soon, so please, guys, apply. But thank you guys so much for coming, and have an amazing evening.
Thank you, everybody. It's been fantastic to meet you all. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.